Wednesday, April 20th, 2022. The time is 2:30 p.m. Special meeting agenda with our Kootenai County Historic Preservation Committee. Joining us is our Director, Courtney, and our Archaeologist, Lori, and attending our Commissioners, Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll proceed with our one and only and important business item, which is the inadvertent find protocol. So ladies, take it away.
Thank you. The commission is recommending that the county adopt this just to cover ourselves because part of our function is to protect historic resources in the county. So an inadvertent discovery protocol is that when ground disturbing activities are occurring and something is discovered inadvertently through the process, which is a cultural resource, whoever's working there at the time has a way to resolve, to a protocol to follow. An inadvertent discovery protocol should be followed if cultural material, including human remains, are encountered during construction and ground disturbing activities. Dig something up, what do you do? We don't know if anyone in the county that isn't already working on a project through the Section 106 process is aware of the options. An inadvertent discovery consists of previously unidentified Native American or Euro-American artifacts, features, or human remains. A county protocol provides direction if an inadvertent discovery is encountered during the project activities. The protocol lays out how to proceed with the project and what to do with that discovery. It might be to stop work or not. And work would be stopped if it looks like an important concentration of artifacts, human bones, historic features like a foundation, something unusual in the soil color or rocks, cracked rocks, which might be an old fire hearth, unusual out-of-place rocks, unusual isolated artifact, something that looks important, burnt-looking soil. But no work needs to be stopped if it's one artifact. It's deer bones, not human bones, brick or wood fragments, just isolated items, metal fragment, or even an isolated square nail, which is an old historic nail. There could be some interesting rocks, an unusual concentration. For instance, that is probably an old fire hearth, maybe an Indian campsite. Might dig up a foundation. Probably not likely, but things happen. These are bone tools, an example of something that could be found. An unusual material for the area. This is obsidian. It would be unusual. It's also a tool. But are there any others nearby? Is that the only one? Now there's a protocol to know what to do if something like this comes up. Might come upon a dump or a concentration of historic bottles, A key would be that the glass is purple, black, or light green, and looks something like that, like these. Maybe a concentration of ceramics, but that's it. Stop, look. If there's not any more, likely they continue with the project. Or if there's some really old projectile points, these happen to be Clovis, which date 13,000 years ago. Not probably likely around here, but you never know, I guess. And here's some more older ones. And who do you call? Well, first, it's the project manager. And he will then be able to refer to the protocol, he or she, and notify the appropriate personnel according to the plan. And if an artifact is inadvertently discovered, project people should photograph it, not move it, and not collect it. If human remains are discovered, of course, that's really an issue. They must be treated with respect, covered up with a tarp, not dirt or rocks, not photographed. Don't call 911 or the Coeur d'Alene Press. Don't disturb and don't resume work until directed. Work can resume elsewhere on the site as directed by the manager, project manager though. So that's kind of a really quick synopsis of the what's in the protocol. And why is it needed in Kootenai County? Ground disturbing projects occur in the county which are not under the Section 106 review process. So this covers some of those. Kootenai County does not have a protocol for inadvertent discovery. Such a protocol should be part of the Historic Preservation Plan, which seeks to preserve and protect cultural resources. And at the very least, the county, for county-owned property and county projects, should have a protocol so that county workers know exactly how to proceed if something does come up during a project. And I'm thinking of maybe a highway district project where they're digging and putting a culvert in or something. They need to know what to do if something important comes up, and the protocol will give them guidance. This is how it should be part of the Historic Preservation Plan, which is to preserve and protect cultural resources and to show respect to the tribes. And it's a guideline. It's not a requirement. It's not a regulation. It's a guideline. So that's basically a synopsis, and you have a copy of a draft inadvertent discovery plan, which I did for the county. It's fairly general. It could be tweaked, and the last page is a flow chart, which guides you through the process if you have something you've discovered. Again, it's a draft. It's basically the same one that was prepared by me for the city of Mullen, and I used the city of Meridian as a guideline. And then later, the next one is a template, which is basically the same, plus some of the same photos that I showed you, examples, and that's now been provided by the State Historic Preservation Office. The draft that I did is the same as Mullen's, and it was approved by the State Historic Preservation Office. That was a couple years ago. So it's meant for just a draft at this point. We can tweak it, or it's close to ready to go. So.
Okay.
If you have any questions?
Yeah, so this is not based on state law. This is just a good thing to know and to have.
Right, it's a way to proceed.
And I would just offer that it's something that we can offer our community partners.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do have something that happens, say, in Athol or out on the Rathdrum Prairie. So when these things happen, they have a guide that's available to them so they can use it as a resource. So again, it's not, I would say it's an aspirational way of handling a particular incident.
Okay. And I see a little bit of thought is gone into about the project. It seemed like a little bit, they couldn't continue work in the draft until it was, like they had 30 days or something. So, but then your presentation kind of indicates they can continue work, but outside of the 30-meter.
That 30
range.
days, is that in the part where, after something's been discovered?
Yeah.
And an archaeologist involved and
Yes, within
everything's been
30
recorded
days
and
of
whatever.
concluding field
Yeah,
work.
that's
techno
way
work.
down the road.
Okay.
And probably not likely to even get that far.
Okay.
But then, you never know, we just want to provide a protocol so everyone knows what to do.
Sure.
You don't pick this thing up and throw it,
Right.
or,
And a number of the projects that, protocols like this apply to, and even I think Lori has written down the applicable laws and regulations on the plan itself. If people are working on federally funded projects, they have other plans. They have
yes,
other
they've
protocols.
already, for any, like, any project with federal money involved has been through the Section 106 review process. And they may have a protocol in the contracts for it. Or they may not, but then Kootenai County will have one. And they can follow that. Instead of reinventing the wheel for every project,
Right.
there's
It's-
something that's,
And now typically in an excavation, say it's a subdivision, and there's heavy machinery, it's going to be tough to identify.
It is. It is.
Because, I mean, it's going to get picked up with the dirt
Yeah.
frequently unnoticed, right?
well, that can happen. And I've spent a lot of time in front of that machinery,
Oh, okay.
watching, because that's the other option. An archaeologist, if it's a sensitive area, then there might already be a monitor there. And it's easier for the guy on the backhoe or whatever piece of machinery to see than the archaeologist trying to.
Right,
Right.
right.
So yeah, stuff will probably get by. A skeleton's a little difficult, or,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
a skull.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what do we do?
Without this guide, what do they do? I mean, I would assume
don't know.
anybody who
Yeah.
finds human bones is going to tell somebody.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
and they might tell the Coeur d'Alene Press.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, from my experience with project development, a lot of experienced contractors may have their own protocol, but again, this would be like the most aspirational way
Sure.
for us to communicate to the public, like an expectation.
Yeah.
So that if they do come across human remains, if they do come across, which actually happens down south of town, in the Worley area, if they start coming across things that the tribe may have an interest in, it's a good way to avoid maybe creating problems if we don't have to.
Sure.
And at least have information available. I know that as we continue to develop south of town, particularly like Micah and Cougar Gulch, where I live, there are so many drainages, there's so many old barns. It would be I don't think we could expect, as houses are built and subdivisions are put in, that every single thing that's found would be subject to this protocol, but it would be nice if it was available, particularly to landowners, particularly to people who've maybe lost a barn, lost part of their land, to recover things that may belong to them. So this is, again, it's just a really great way to communicate an expectation and give information.
Sure.
And I think, again, I'd like to say, the very least, for county-owned property and projects and the county contracts, at the very least, they have this.
So what do you expect from us? What would you like us to do with this?
Well, one of our concerns is so as I'm sure you're familiar with, the historic preservation plan that was just re-upped in the comp plan. It doesn't include anything like this. Ideally, we would include this in a historic preservation plan for your approval. What I would suggest is that this be something that you as the county commissioners approve as public information and allow Jonathan, using his facilities, to communicate to the public that this is available. And also as a way to train your county workers to say, listen, as we expand, as we move into areas where we may find these kinds of things, doing projects, this is what we would like you to do as far as a process. So that may involve their supervisor, it may involve other public officials, but at least saying this is the county's guide and what we would expect. I think that the Board of County Commissioners could approve this as public information.
Okay. I could even see it going out with site disturbance permits from community development. So I guess for me, going from a draft to a permanent, I'd like to see it more stress that it's a guideline, not law. And I would like to see that like reading this and then the presentation clarified a lot. So I'd like more clarification if it's one artifact versus a find, right? Because I understand going through that we're talking about finds. We're not talking about one arrowhead and now we're going to stop a project for, 30 days as we, doing this. But if it's, oh my goodness, this is a foundation, we can see a bunch of different tools or bottles or whatever. I guess I want it a little bit more clear as to the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, would we stop work, for example, for a single arrowhead?
No.
Now, where there's one, there may be more.
Yeah, that's
But-
the thing. But,
Go ahead.
yeah, you're right. It's a fine line.
Right.
But it might be 5 minutes or a half an hour to
Sure.
determine.
And that's a good point,
Yeah.
because if they do see something and they take an extra 10 or 15 minutes and dig around and find nothing,
Right. That's to my point. So reading this, I felt like, oh my goodness, you find one thing, your project is shut down, now we have all these agencies involved.
That's exactly what I would hope we
Don't,
it doesn't look like, because
Right.
it doesn't have to.
yeah, yeah. But that's what clarified in the presentation. It's like, oh, I understand what you're doing. And so if we can just make the guide just a little bit clear in those two areas, then I think it's great. And to have,
We can-
yeah, so I don't know.
even maybe do a resolution of some sort.
Yeah, I think we can adopt it at a business meeting and
Yeah,
then
yep.
give it to community development and planning and zoning and
Yep.
go from there.
There we go.
So,
Perfect.
So at least we have a plan in place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great, yeah.
yeah. And, I kind of, reading through this, and I actually read through the first draft, I don't know, months ago or whenever it was given to us, and I'm thinking, wow, what do they do now? I mean, if they don't have a plan, what do they do?
You're right. I remember when they were doing something with the street by the park. Maybe it was when they were doing the changing things.
McEwen?
Yeah, by the city park. And it was road work, and they found arrowheads. And no one knew what to do, is my guess. And I guess somebody ran to the museum and said, hey, we found some stuff, and I don't know how it was resolved, but it was in the newspaper.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I think offering this as a guideline and stating that, hey, we do live in a culturally rich area and the potential of you finding stuff, is possible. So just be aware. And if you do, here you go.
Have there been any significant fines in Kootenai County that you're aware of?
No, a lot of arrowheads, I bet.
How far back
I-
do they date?
The arrowheads?
Yeah.
That they're not
Is it like
they're
a
not
couple?
going to stop a project.
for that, yeah.
I have encountered some, I believe, that are at least 13,000 years old.
Oh, my goodness, okay.
Yeah.
In Kootenai?
Well, I don't know if they're transported here, but I know the gentleman who owns them. One of the things that I've found just in doing our history survey in Cougar Gulch is how many people would have outhouses near creeks, and they would dump everything into the outhouse, and it would all come down the creek, and then people would go find it. And the things that we find are truly amazing. I think we found in a recent survey some dishes that look like they came from maybe the trains that used to come through Post Falls in the 1920s. We have found a saw that has not moved. It has literally not moved since maybe 1930 on the property. So there are things that are old, but if it's Euro-American, I would put it at maybe around 1850 to 1880. Anything before that, it could very well involve tribal assets.
I have found burials on the reservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reservation, one of the things about the reservation is that the boundary changed multiple times. So while there may have been, a decade of use between, say, 1873 and 1880 in a particular area, then the boundary changed. So we just don't know what was left.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. We have the fun group, to be honest.
Well, you
And you're
certainly
you're fairly cohesive now, so.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we will take your advice and
Okay.
clarify the protocol and resubmit to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, anything?
And thank you.
Just a couple of questions. One, they haven't actually found Clovis points here, have they?
No.
Kootenai
Those
County?
were just an example.
Okay, that's
Those ones
really
that I
old.
showed were from central Idaho.
Those are really old
And
points.
if there was one to be found, it's probably brought here
Well,
by,
Yeah,
because there wasn't anybody here that long ago.
by a Native American.
It was a
Indian,
glacier.
Who was collecting arrowheads from.
Well, or traded.
Trading.
I just think Clovis is really, really old.
13,000.
1,000 years old, yeah. The other one is I am concerned, and it's something to address now, some of the definitions, that we need more definition. One that always bothers me
Yeah.
is you say pre-contact. Pre-contact with who?
Oh, okay. I see yeah.
French Indian traders?
Well, you know what, we have our jargon.
No, I know.
We should clarify.
I've been involved in
But
bids before.
pre-contact with Euro-Americans,
Euro-Americans, okay, well, that needs to be defined.
Native Americans and,
Right, I was an administrator for an Indian tribe. When I got there and where I was talking about the Native Americans, and they said, we're Indians, you call us Indians, and we've been here for 15,000 years minimum, up in Alaska.
most of them say we've always been here.
Well, that's a bit of a stretch, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other thing I would recommend is that there be some a section of definitions. What are definitions? So people know what we're talking. Not everybody is in on the jargon, and that would help. And also,
Yeah, this was trying to keep it simple.
well,
But yeah,
simple's
you're
good,
right.
but simple can cut both ways. The other one is some timelines, and this is the problem. I'm not, but if I were building a $5 million McDonald's, and I had so many weeks left on my construction loan, and they go, look, some arrowheads. A lot of people would go, bury them, just bulldoze them
Oh,
over.
yeah, yeah.
And we don't want to have that,
Right.
because that's what people do.
Okay.
I've seen that
Yeah, I
happen
can
in California around
clarify
Monterey.
that. I think, Leslie, you've mentioned that 30-day concern. I think also that was for the reporting, but the
Right.
project had already long long since started,
Right.
restarted.
Well,
So-
and like I said, I just glanced through this
Yeah,
before we
yeah.
started, but that was a question in my mind
Yeah.
is you need to get somebody out there in like 24 hours or less, or, you
Yes.
know, to make sure the project can stay on track.
In a timely way, like,
Yeah,
because otherwise, I mean, these guys are, he's got all these construction workers standing around like this.
and in this day and age, it's crucial. We
Oh,
got
yeah.
They
tons of
continue to
people not,
charge.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Yeah, in determining the age, are you using carbon dating?
Huh. Well, that's money.
You want to pay for it?
There are
Hopefully,
other techniques, but yeah, I guess they're relatively new and they're more expensive.
I think that it's hard to say, but it's going to be a case-by-case thing, and
It's probably,
has to be evaluated.
well, it's probably mostly past identification, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, this area, this is typical dishes or whatever.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
typical glass, and,
Provide a range.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, you can look at some of the foundations and have an idea of what you're looking
Yeah.
at. Yeah,
And,
you can look at
and
a
be
barn
reasonable,
ruin, have
because
an
we're
idea.
probably talking about private land
Mm-hmm.
here, and there aren't any regulations, so it's gonna be hard to stop work.
Sure.
We wouldn't want to.
But I think a guideline's helpful in
Yeah.
case they do find a find, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this used to be, you know, a house, or it used to be barrel site or whatever, so.
And it, it may, property owners like to be informed about their property. They just might be appreciative of being informed of what was there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, 2:57.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Any public comment? No one on? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.